LeBron James has been one of the biggest names in the NBA for a better part of 2 decades. In fact, he's been around long enough that many of the NBA rookies coming into the league in recent years have said they've grown up watching LeBron and that he's one of their favorite players. He's had a lot of time to rack up some great plays. So in this video, we'll look at the selection of the best plays from his long career, in no particular order of course. Cross-court pass to Dwayne Wade. Coaches wouldn't normally recommend their players to save the ball when it's about to head out of bounds near their own basket, because if a player touches the ball and it goes out of bounds anyway, their team loses possession and turns the ball over. But LeBron is an exceptional player in this game with Miami Heat against the Charlotte Bobcats. He not only prevented the turnover, but has set up a score on the other end of the court. LeBron not only went out of bounds into the crowd to save the ball, but also lofted the ball far down the other end of the court where Dwayne Wade was able to make a catch and score with no one opposing him. Pretty good for a play where logic results would have been a turnover for the Heat. This was one of the ones where LeBron's underrated passing ability was definitely on display. The Eastern Conference Finals buzzer beater versus Indiana. Another big play from the Miami Heat stage of LeBron James's career on a bigger stage than a regular season matchup with Charlotte this time. The opposition was much more serious. LeBron and the Heat made it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers, the main opposition in the conference at the time. Everyone had projected the Pacers and Heat would meet each other, and Indiana was the one team in the conference that was predicted by the media to have a shot at actually winning. During the first game of the series, it looked like the Pacers might win to be the final outcome. But even with a couple seconds left in overtime, with Indiana leading by a single point, the game wasn't over yet for the Heat. They were still in the game thanks to the big three, and LeBron would win the game with the last possession while going for another risky move. Instead of taking a shot from outside after receiving the ball with the time ticking down on the clock, LeBron cut inside and laid the ball up for a game winner as time expired. This one is impressive not just because it came at a big moment in a big time against a big opponent, but because of the way LeBron James changed directions and made it to the rim fast enough to score with 2.2 seconds left on the clock after starting at the top of the key. Not many players can pull that off, especially under high pressure situations of a game like that. The block on Andre Iguodala. This one, unlike any other plays on this list, is a defensive play, but that doesn't mean it's less impressive than the other ones. For context, this was during the time the Warriors were leading the Cavs in their finals series, and the Cavs were trying to become the first team to bounce back from a 3-1 deficit to win it all. While it's hard for one play to change everything, you can say that this play symbolizes the shift in momentum and showed that the Cavs were for real and they would still fight and try to claw their way back against what seemed like an impossible odds at the time. The Warriors had a 2-on-1 fast break and it looked like it was impossible for them to fail to score the ball from that chance. LeBron came up from behind and turned up the speed to catch up with forward Andre Iguodala and swat the ball away from the rim at the last moment in a play that would be recognized as one of the best defensive efforts in the series. Not only were LeBron James's defensive skills on display with this one, but also his raw athletic ability, his skill at chasing down the opponent from behind. We see blocks all the time in the NBA, but not usually ones where the defender starts out at the other end of the court and runs all the way down. Dunking over John Lucas III. The Chicago Bulls were another competitor to the Heat during the LeBron James era for Miami. And like the Pacers, they were one of the few teams that were predicted to have a chance by both fans and the media. This was especially true during the Derrick Rose era, and he was leading the Bulls before his big injury derailed his career. Chicago also had better regular season performances compared to the Heat at times, but ultimately, Miami would have the upper hand against the Bulls and was able to brush them aside when it mattered most. One play that perfectly symbolizes the relationship between the Heat and the Bulls at this time is a dunk that LeBron threw down over the Bulls defender, John Lucas III. Lucas had his back turned to James, was just focusing on following the defensive play when the ball was lobbed up over his head and James vaulted over him to slam the ball down in an aggressive highlight reel dunk. Surprisingly, Lucas has said that he didn't even know LeBron was coming, and he only found out the truth about the play after he'd already reached the bench. Pretty rough. but not surprising considering the athleticism we've seen from LeBron throughout his career. And that's all for this video. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and go ahead and leave a comment down below.